Do you remember that golden smile from WKRP in Cincinnati? That voice, that charm, Loni Anderson wasn't just a TV star. She was a symbol of an entire era of television. And now, that era feels even further away. America is grieving the loss of one of its most beloved television icons. Loni Anderson, the woman who lit up millions of living rooms in the 70s and 80s, has passed away. And as tributes pour in, it's not just her beauty or her fame people remember. It's her strength, her heart, and her journey through triumph, scandal, and heartbreak. In this video, we take you through the life of a woman who was more than just a blonde bombshell. From her humble beginnings, to the pain behind her smile, to the roles that made her a household name, and the family and battles she kept private from the world. This is Bioscoop, where legacies are more than headlines. They're stories worth remembering. If stories like this speak to you, well, you know where to find us. Let's remember Loni Anderson, not just as a star, but as a woman who lived, loved, and left a mark. Before the lights, before the red carpets, before the world knew her name, Loni Anderson was just a shy little girl growing up in the quiet suburbs of St. Paul, Minnesota. Born on August 5th, 1945, right at the end of World War II, she came into a world trying to rebuild and into a family with humble roots. Her father, Clayton Anderson, was a hard-working environmental chemist, while her mother, Maxine Hazel, was a model. You could say Loni inherited a bit of both brains and beauty, but growing up wasn't all perfect. Loni often spoke about being very shy as a child. In fact, few would guess that the glamorous woman we saw on TV once struggled with confidence. She was the kind of girl who admired the stars from afar, never quite sure she belonged in their world. She attended Alexander Ramsey High School, where classmates remember her as bright, polite, and unusually beautiful. By the time she reached college at the University of Minnesota, she had already caught people's attention. But even then, she didn't rush into the spotlight. Loni studied art, thinking she might become a teacher, never imagining she'd become one of the most recognizable faces in America. Still, the spark of performance was there. She acted in school plays and local theater, and with each role, her confidence grew. She wasn't just pretty. She had something, a presence, a quiet strength. And slowly, the shy Minnesota girl began to transform into the star she was always meant to be. Loni Anderson didn't explode onto the scene like most Hollywood stars. She climbed her way up, slowly, patiently, audition after audition, role after role, building a career the hard way. In the early 1970s, she appeared in small roles on TV shows like SWAT, Policewoman, and Three's Company. The roles were short, sometimes just a few lines. But each time she stepped in front of the camera, she left an impression. Still, for years, she remained just another pretty face in a town full of them. Her beauty was undeniable. Golden hair, bright smile, the kind of look casting directors noticed immediately. But what many didn't see, at least not yet, was the fire inside. The persistence, the wit, the woman who refused to give up. Then in 1978, everything changed. A role came along that would transform her life forever. Jennifer Marlowe, the smart, stunning receptionist in the hit sitcom WKRP in Cincinnati. It wasn't just a breakout role, it was a redefinition. Loni wasn't playing the dumb blonde. Jennifer was confident, classy, and clever. The kind of woman who knew exactly who she was and what she wanted. And viewers loved her for it. Overnight, Loni Anderson became a household name. She earned 2 Emmy nominations and 3 Golden Globe nominations for that role alone. But more than awards, she earned something deeper. Respect. Elderly women admired her grace. Younger women saw her as proof that you could be beautiful and intelligent. Men couldn't stop watching her, but even they were surprised by how quick, sharp, and grounded she was beneath the surface. Hollywood had finally noticed, and now, the shy Minnesota girl who once stood quietly in the back was suddenly standing at the front center stage. But fame, as always, came with a cost. Fame brought Loni Anderson everything she had dreamed of. Spotlights, success, the world's attention. But behind the flash of the cameras was something else, something much heavier. Loneliness. At the height of her career, the world saw Loni as the woman who had it all. But inside, she still longed for something far more fragile than fame. Real love. And then, in 1981, love arrived like a storm in the shape of one man, Burt Reynolds. He was Hollywood's leading man. Rugged, charming, box office gold. She was television's sweetheart, graceful, glamorous, adored. Together, they were a media fantasy, a golden couple. But reality? It wasn't always golden. They dated for years before finally marrying in 1988. To the world, it looked like a fairy tale. But behind closed doors, it was far more complicated. Loni gave everything to the marriage. She left her rising career, stepped back from the limelight, and devoted herself to family, especially when they adopted a son, Quentin. But the love she gave didn't always come back the same way. Behind Bert's charming smile were struggles, with control, with insecurity, with anger, and eventually, with violence. Loni stayed for years, hoping, praying, trying to keep the family together. But pain, when ignored, becomes a prison. In 1993, their divorce became one of the ugliest and most public in Hollywood history. Burt spoke to the press, shaming her name. Loni, dignified and quiet, held her head high, even when it trembled in private. She lost more than a marriage. She lost privacy. She lost peace. And for a while, she nearly lost herself. But Loni was never just a pretty face. She was a survivor. And even in heartbreak, she chose grace. After the cameras faded and the headlines moved on, Loni Anderson was left with silence. And sometimes, silence is the loudest thing in the world. She had spent decades being seen as the blonde bombshell, as Burt Reynolds' wife, as the tabloid's favorite headline. But now, for the first time, she asked, "Who am I when no one is watching?" The answer didn't come quickly. She focused on raising her son, Quentin, not as a celebrity, but as a mother. A real mother with sleepless nights, real worries, and unconditional love. She also faced the pain of aging in an industry that worshipped youth. Producers stopped calling, scripts stopped coming, and she refused to be reduced to a stereotype. But Loni wasn't done. She returned to the screen in the late 90s and early 2000s not as a bombshell, but as a woman who had earned her strength. She starred in guest roles in sitcoms, showing a new side of herself. Bold, funny, and unapologetically grown. And while the world whispered about wrinkles and age, Loni became a quiet symbol of aging with power. Off-screen, she found love again, not flashy, not headline-worthy, but real. In 2008, she married musician Bob Flick, a man she had first met decades earlier before all the fame. He didn't want her for her face, her fame, or her past. He wanted her for who she was beneath it all. And that, finally, was enough. She also became a passionate advocate for COPD awareness after her parents suffered from the disease, using her voice, not for roles, but for change. In stepping away from the spotlight, Loni found something she never had before. Peace, purpose, power. When you hear the name Loni Anderson, some might still picture the glamorous woman in a tight red dress, flashing that perfect smile on WKRP in Cincinnati. But if that's all they see, they've missed the real story. Because Loni's legacy isn't about the beauty, it's about the battles, the quiet ones, the private ones, the ones she fought behind closed doors. As a single mom, as a survivor of toxic love, as a woman in an industry that praised her appearance and punished her for aging. She proved that being blonde didn't mean being dumb. That being beautiful didn't mean being soft. That behind every public scandal is a private strength most people will never see. She gave women permission to be funny and sexy, ambitious and vulnerable, flawed, but still enough. Loni Anderson's life teaches us something simple. You can reinvent yourself at any age. You can heal from the pain you never thought you'd survive. And you don't need the world's applause to finally feel proud of who you are. Today, she isn't chasing fame. She's living with quiet dignity, a woman who's seen it all, loved deeply, lost painfully, and still walks forward with grace. That's her legacy. Not just a TV icon, but a survivor, a mother, a woman who rose, fell, and rose again. Loni Anderson, the blonde bombshell with the sparkling smile and unshakable spirit, passed away peacefully on August 5, 2025, at the age of 79. Surrounded by family, she left this world just as gracefully as she lived in it, quietly and with dignity. The cause of her death was reported as natural causes, a peaceful end to a vibrant life filled with light, laughter, and unforgettable television moments. For those who grew up watching WKRP in Cincinnati, or followed her through the highs and lows of Hollywood, Loni wasn't just a star. She was a symbol of strength, charm, and timeless beauty. She lit up every screen she touched, but she also taught us that behind the glamour, there was a woman who overcame heartbreak, personal struggle, and a changing industry with unwavering grace. Now, as fans across the world say goodbye, we remember her not for the headlines or the hairstyles, but for the warmth she brought into our living rooms and the joy she gave to generations. Rest well, Loni. You were loved, and you will not be forgotten. If stories like this mean something to you, if you believe in honoring the legends who shaped pop culture, then you're in the right place. Here at BioScoop, we don't just tell stories, we remember people. So if you'd like to join us as we continue to celebrate iconic lives, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We've got more timeless journeys to share, and we'd love to have you with us for the next one.